What's up, my ninjas? I'm Strydent, and I'm back with another video. Today we are looking at probably one of my favorite figures of all time, of my favorite fighter of all time, the SH Figuarts Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee, like I said, he's one of my heroes, second only to Sammo Hung. If it weren't for Bruce Lee, I would have never even thought about martial arts. And I definitely wouldn't have got into it as early as I did. I got into it around the age of 5. It was like 4 or 5. You know what I mean? I don't know. There's so much you can say about Bruce Lee. I mean, his method created a way for people of any shape, size, any kind of physical limitation, mental limitation, to get in and learn techniques that kind of work specifically with their body types. And he opened it up to all kinds of people, as opposed to just stuff being taught, hand down to Chinese, from Chinese to Chinese, from Chinese. His fighting style kind of showed you that, even small people could be like a monster. You know what I mean? Even a small person could be a huge, fight like a monster. And it's something you hadn't seen up until him. I mean, yeah, there were other guys that fought, and they may have been relatively small, but you didn't see a bigger guy fighting a smaller guy so often on screen. You know what I mean? It's just so much. The amount of power the guy exuded, it was insane. Because of him, a lot of people learned about different types of martial arts being mixed together. Mixed martial arts. And this was way before your UFC, way before Pride, way before it became a fad, quote unquote. Because the way that you learn how to be a better fighter is to learn about what else is out there and prepare for those things when you're in a fight. And this was like at the heart of Bruce's philosophy. And it's awesome that we got the opportunity to learn these things from him, for those of us who were, into martial arts enough to actually get into that. And then on screen, I've already said, being that he was a little dude, seeing how powerful he was, it was different. We didn't see that often. That's not the norm. And we got to have a hero that wasn't this huge, super, Arnold Schwarzenegger style, or at the time, probably like John Wayne style, brawler. This little dude who was scrappy as hell, but was fast and powerful, like in a way we had never seen. So it's awesome. Now, I know all this stuff has nothing to do with the figure, but it's just the fact that this is a figure of a person, an icon that I am like so, he inspired so much of my life. The crazy part is that people like Bruce Lee don't come very often. We hear about it in the past. I mean, and we have these periods of times where we had these extraordinary human beings that just did things that we just, previously thought impossible. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just nuts. And then there's the fact that, like I just said, he was one of those people, extraordinary people, who did things that, you heard about it, you just never saw it. And this guy didn't really exist that long ago. I mean, he would have been 76 if he was still alive today. That's crazy. That's super crazy. Because, I mean, how many of these kind of cats exist out there that we can actually go back and say, man, these guys were extraordinary? I mean, there's a lot of extraordinary athletes, but I mean, in general, how many guys that were philosophers, filmmakers, fighters, actors, etc., how many of them did all that and, are still here? It's not so many of them, you know what I mean? And the ones that exist, like guys like Donnie Yen and Sammo Hung and Jackie Chan, they were all inspired by Bruce Lee. So I think it's a big deal that finally, for those of us who are action junkies, martial arts movie fans, and martial artists, and then collectors, action figure collectors, we finally get one that we can afford. Like I said, Enter Bay, the collection that they created, they were expensive, awesome figures, better than Hot Toys, like on a whole different level. I mean, each one was around $300 to $400 a piece, and they came with all kinds of good, cool shit. But it's just, who's really gonna buy all of that shit? Not us. So for us to finally have one, it's pretty awesome. Now, I did some comparisons in this video, so I could show you some of the previous versions of Bruce Lee figures that we got in the past. and you'll see how different. Some of them aren't even Bruce Lee, but they're Bruce Lee characters that were based off of Bruce Lee. So you'll see kind of the level, you know, of quality that we got back then in comparison to what we have now. This figure is not only one of the best representations of Bruce Lee, but it's one of the best, most posable figures that I've seen, period. Granted, there are limitations in a couple areas, but they're limitations that they don't really set you back when you're playing with the figure, when you're posing the figure, because you can get around the limitation. You know what I mean? Things like floating crotch areas that kind of get in the way when you try to make him do high kicks. Bruce didn't do splits the way Van Damme did. You know, he didn't do helicopter kicks and shit. So like the poses that you would get him in, they're more natural, flexible. They're naturally flexible poses. They don't look exaggerated, is what I'm trying to say. So, you know, having that floating crotch piece kind of restricts some of a little bit. There's a very little bit of his range of motion in the lower, in his legs, you know, at the hips. But I mean, this figure is 100% the epitome of SH Figuarts' slogan of incorporating the Bandai action figure art under the theme of pursuing character expression through humanoid action. That is 100% what this figure is. A lot of times figures have good articulation or lots of points of articulation, but it's not natural. It doesn't look like the way we move. This figure moves like a human 100%. So when you put him in a pose, it's going to look right unless you go out of your way to twist him up and do 360 rotation with his neck and all that bullshit that you see the Marvel Legends folks doing on various reviews. So this right here is an example of why these guys are at the top of the game. I'm going to show you the good. I'm going to show you there really is no bad. You know, this is like Saber 2.0. There really is no bad. They pretty much, I'm letting you know ahead of time. So like if you don't want to hear me tell you all the good about this figure, you can leave now. But there's so much good. And I'm going to go through it all. I'm going to show you and I'm going to explain to you, and you're going to see him in action, and you're going to understand why this is my favorite line. You know what I mean? Hands down. So sit back, relax. You know the drill. We're going to go over the SH Figuarts Bruce Lee. So, in all honesty, this is my second time trying to do this, maybe my third. It's been a lot of issues trying to get this review done, so I'm going to try to make sure I hit the same points that I hit the first time. This is the SH Figuarts Bruce Lee. He is super well done. It's one of those figures where it's surprising how accurate this thing is. It's surprising that it's so small and it hits all the notes that it hits, because I mean a lot of times figures twice this size don't necessarily hit the notes they're supposed to hit perfectly. You know, I've seen Hot Toys where from certain angles the likeness is dead on, but not from all the angles, you know. This guy, I look at him from any angle, it's unmistakably Bruce Lee. I mean, there's no doubts about it. So it's pretty awesome that they were able to capture his likeness so well. Props to them for that. I mean, this is Bandai. This is what you expect from them, you know? But it's crazy because they don't have that many figures based on real people. They have Michael Jackson before him. They have Bruce Lee, and then I think they're about to do Freddie Mercury. And then they have somewhere in there, they have a Chris Evans for as Captain America in Civil War. And I don't know about that head. The production versions of the head don't look like Chris Evans to me. Whereas the previous one for Age of Ultron really looks like Chris Evans to me. Even though a lot of people doing reviews and collectors, they say it doesn't. I'll show you when I do the review. But anyway, this guy is scary accurate, and he has all the attitude and all the personality that, you know, you come to expect from Bruce Lee. And I'm impressed. I mean, I'm just going to let you know right from the beginning, I am impressed. I mean, I've already let you know in the prelude that, you know, this is a great figure, but I'm really impressed. I mean, just look at the way things work, like the elbow joint on that guy, and just the musculature, the way that, you know, if you line things up properly, you can still have a very smooth silhouette that looks like Bruce Lee. I mean, it's the perfect stature, the coloring is perfect, the sculpt is pretty damn nice. You know, it's just a whole lot of quality, you know, and he even feels more substantial than most of the standard Figuarts. Like I said earlier, I think it's because it had to be approved by the Bruce Lee estate. This thing kicks the living crap out of the Figma version, which isn't horrible. So sculpt wise, this guy is one of those that just, he looks pretty good. I mean, the musculature was modeled 100% off of Bruce, and it looks right. It doesn't look like they saw Bruce Lee or, you know, Dragon Lee or something like that, kind of like the Figma does. This looks like Bruce Lee. So I got to give them their props. They did what they were supposed to do, and they did it well. I have no problems with that. I also have no slop on my figure. Those little shoes, the pants, his hair, everything going on in his face, the subtleties with the scruff and everything, he just looks the part. I don't have any issues with him. I'm pretty surprised that it was that clean, you know. There's a lot of subtle airbrushing going on, and all that looks really good. There's just nothing negative to report, you know. All the extra pieces, all the weapons, all that stuff looks really good, and I was surprised that it looked that good, you know. I was surprised that it was consistent, and I shouldn't be, because, you know, we know by now that it's SH Figuarts and this is what they do. So, I mean, just look at that face. I mean, damn. it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. They really let you know that, you know, they know what they're doing, and I think they took this as a challenge, and they easily won. I mean, this thing it kicks the crap out of just about everything else in the same scale. It's beautiful. Now, his articulation, it's pretty important when you have a dynamic character such as Bruce, that the articulation is on point all over, and it is. They did a good job of hiding joints, especially on the pants, so that the sculpt isn't really broken up that badly. And I have to say, I was impressed. I was thoroughly impressed with this. They even used the 2.0 joints for the legs, kind of like what you saw in some of the Gaim figures and the Hibiki figure, and the renewal, what's his name, Kuga. But anyway, head articulation is standard. He really has a good range of motion with looking up, down, side to side. He even has the little bit of tilt. He has ODC, datsme's jive turkeys. He's got the sass going on with the neck. You know what I mean? Got a little bit of Dolomite action. And he's got the jive turkeys, like ODC always points out. His arm is very articulated because he has your standard, universal shoulder joint plus the bicep swivel, but he also has a butterfly joint that the universal shoulder joint is sticking into, so that you can get him to cross his chest with his arms. He also can put his arms back a great distance, which I'll show you from the side. And I mean, that's the way that you do it. I mean, Bruce Lee uses chucks, so he's going to have to be able to reach over his chest to his other side in order to hold the chucks the right way. And you can do that no problem. Bicep swivel is awesome. He doesn't have any type of, motion being blocked or hindered by anything when it comes to his arms. He's got insane range of motion. His wrist is a single peg with I want to say a ball joint at the end. Excuse me. So you get the swivel and you get like that bit of give that you would get with a ball joint. His legs move up that much. You can move them up a little further because there is a floating crotch piece. They move out that much. Double jointed knees, single jointed but ball jointed legs with a toe joint, and he's got a swivel because of the ball joint. So that's as far apart as his legs can go, with his feet still pretty flat on the ground. It's just dope. His torso. The torso's three parts. You've got the upper, the mid, and then the lower, which is probably the pelvis piece. And so looking down, if you use the torso, he looks down pretty decent amount. If he looks back and you're just using the upper torso, you get a lot. Now, if you use all of it, you get a ridiculous dip back, you know? You use it forward, you get a ridiculous dip forward. It's just very naturalistic, natural posing, you know what I mean? Natural range of motion. It's pretty dope. It's surprising when you think about it, because usually the figures don't necessarily, how do I put it? They don't do this. You know, I talk about it all the time. You get good looking figures that just have joints cut into them, but they don't move in a human kind of way. This guy is 100% the real deal. I mean, you can't be this epic and have, you know, amateur joints cut into your figure. So, you know, this is 100% worth the price of admission for me. I think this is a win and a half. As you can see here, he's got the staff, the billy clubs, the nunchucks. He's got several emotive hands, as well as emotive faces, and they look awesome. One of the things I really dig about this set is his faces. The faces look really awesome. The faces, I was surprised at. At first I thought actually two of them were the same, but you notice that one, the eyes are looking to the side, which is pretty cool. I mean, that's kind of creepy though, having them like that next to each other like that. But the extra hands are dope. Just dope. You have all the hands you need. The splayed open hands, the fist hands, the holding things hands. It's just pure dopeness. The weapons themselves are rendered very simply. They look exactly like they looked in the movie, which was very simple. I think they were rubber in the film, but they look good. They look the part. Seeing them in motion is what makes, you know, really sells them, I want to say. So of course you've got, like I said, gesturing hands. You've got the thumbing the nose hand. You've got to have that because you can use it for multiple things, but you got to have that trademark thumbing his nose. You could also use it to do a thumbs up. You know, they're versatile. You could also use it for a thumbs down. And I mean, nothing's wrong with the thumbs down. I mean, it looks good. It doesn't suck. You know what I mean? I like the way it looks. You gotta have a fist because he's gotta hit people. He's gotta punch. He's gotta be able to do those quick back fists and those uppercuts and those boxing blows, those hooks, you know? It just works, and it fits perfectly with his big old forearms. Then you gotta have the chop, which looks really good with his, you know, the chopping hand mixed with the crazy screaming face. I mean, it wouldn't make sense to do it and not have the crazy screaming face. It just looks so good, you know? They work well together. I was impressed because at first I didn't think that they were gonna go that route, you know what I mean? I didn't think they were gonna actually get that crazy and give him that specific hand for that specific scene when he chops Bob Wall, but it worked. It worked. The billy clubs, they work too. For me, it doesn't seem to matter what position I put them in, what pose I put them in. They're just super dope, well done weapons that fit no matter where you put them. And and this is provided you're actually trying, because if you're trying to make him look goofy, you can do it. They've already started doing that shit, and this figure's only been out for a month, maybe two. It's going almost 2 months. But they're beautiful, simple, you know, one colors, not even with a wash, just black billy clubs, just like the nunchucks, which I'm about to get into next, and just like the staff. It's a single color. It might have even been cast in black. Nunchucks are awesome because they have a real chain, so you can actually get the actual, you know, positioning of the nunchucks just like they work in real life. If I kind of wish he had the hands the Figma version has, where his fingers are open and he's holding the nunchucks with his thumbs, but you still get the picture, you know what I mean? And the way that you can pose him with this, with the amount of posability that he has, it's kind of awesome. I mean, it really makes this thing work. And that makes me happy because that's the reason why I get this stuff, you know what I'm saying? Because I need that level of detail and that level of intricacy where everything works together, you know? So I'm really digging that. I really like the way all that works, you know? The staff, my favorite weapon in real life. It's really well done, really simple. Once again, like I said, one color, and it's the right length too, you know what I mean? Which it's like his height plus a little, and it just works. It just works. Straight out of Enter the Dragon. It works perfectly. I don't even have to complain about things I want to see on it. I was able to put him in all the poses I wanted to put him in because Bruce Lee didn't do fancy shit with weapons, with the exception of his nunchucks. And even that, he could spin them and do all that crazy shit, but he would just whack you in a simplistic, kind of straightforward way. I mean, that's what they're used for. Same thing with the staff. He didn't do all the fancy stuff Donnie Yen does. He went straight in, right for your weak points, and took you out. So posing him as such is really simple. Just pose him going straight for the jugular, essentially, because that's the way he fought. It just works. And you know, this is all what I'm talking about. When you have these legends on screen and you have them in action figure form, you want to make sure that you capture the essence of these characters, and they damn sure captured that essence of this character. So I gotta give them props for that shit, man. I'm pretty damn impressed, because I thought I wasn't gonna be, and somehow I was pleasantly surprised by the whole package that is this Bruce Lee figure. More figures need to get on this level, you know? It's strange that we don't get this level of figure in the US often, you know? Every now and then something will pop up and we'll be like, damn, that was actually a pretty good package, you know what I mean? Like, everything worked. But we typically do not get figures this good here in the US. Now with Bruce Lee, it's even more of an oddity, because Bruce Lee himself, we rarely ever get good figures of Bruce Lee. I mean, there's a lot out there, but not a lot of good ones, not a lot of quality ones. I'm going to go over a couple of the ones that I have, and you know, just to show you where we've been and where we've come to with this new Bruce Lee figure, because I mean, it's been a long road and we finally made it. So we had your Bruce Lee figures by Art Asylum. We had your Fei Long from the Soda Street Fighter series. And then we had Law from that old, I want to say it was Kyoto, that did a Tekken series back in the day. And they were kind of like posable statues to a degree. But you can see we've come so far. I mean, not to say that any of these are bad figures. They're good representations. But I mean, my God, look at them in comparison to the real deal. You know what I mean? And you know, it's strange because like the Art Asylum Bruce Lee figures are actually supposed to be Bruce Lee. It's Law, Forrest Law, and Fei Long that are supposed to be their own, you know, respective characters. And it's strange too, because like I said, I've been looking, I always look for Bruce Lee style characters. I love the Fei Long figure, but it's not Bruce Lee. And then the Law figure, Forrest Law, he kind of has his own kind of vibe going on, even though a lot of his looks are very closely modeled after Bruce Lee. So, and I wished that they had done Marshall also. The one that really gets on my nerves though is this one right here. It's such a good figure altogether, but that face, that's not Bruce Lee. That's such a grimace. I mean, you can see him in there, but it's such a crazy grimace. The thing I like with this one though is they got his skin tone right. But I mean, none of them really hold a candle to this. I mean, this is the real deal. This is how it was supposed to be. This is what we're supposed to get. You know what I'm saying? And they did such a good job with them. I mean, you just would be a fool not to get them. So the bottom line, this guy is an amazing figure. He has a lot of things that put him above your standard Figuarts releases. You know that they're starting to kind of switch up the way that they do certain things, especially like hip joints and whatnot. They are using those 2.0 hips that we saw on Hibiki, and we saw on, I think, some of the Gaim, Kamen Rider Gaim figures, and you know, here and there they were used with other figures that did not fit the standard Figuarts pull-down hip assembly. And I think they're changing that up because Mafex has bit that whole thing off of them. But needless to say, this is just the evolution of Figuarts. You're seeing how good their figures really are, because they're not only doing you know, Sentai and Tokusatsu for characters who have a very distinct anime-ish look, even though it's in live action. The suits kind of lend themselves to interpretation. Here you have a real live person, and they're getting everything from the shape of the musculature, you know, the shape of this guy's body, the stature, proportions, etc. Even the coloring, you know, the paint and everything just matches this guy perfectly. There's like no excuse for anybody to hate on this figure. You know what I mean? It is a worthy representation of Bruce Lee. It is by far the best 6-inch scale figure of Bruce Lee that we've ever gotten. And I've shown you a couple. I mean, there's others out there. The Dragon Lives line had about 4 figures, I want to say. There was the Game of Death, there was Fist of Fury, Return of the Dragon, and then there was the one from the movie he never made. So, you know, you have a lot in that line, and some of them look better than others. A couple of the other ones look better than what I showed you. The Game of Death is my personal favorite, so I needed that suit. But, like I said, not many to choose from in this scale, but this is the best one. And it's out now. It's not that expensive. It's about 50 bucks. I mean, for something very one-off-ish, because you know there's not going to be any more, unless they do the other costumes, you know, from like Game of Death and such, you need to jump on this shit. There's no reason to wait. This guy is S-class in every single respect. Get him. I can't stress it enough. So that is my story, and I'm sticking to it. This has been my review of the SH Figuarts Bruce Lee. Awesome figure. You need to jump on this shit. These days he's in between 40 and 50 bucks, surprisingly, and the price seems to be sitting at that area, so jump on it while you can. My name is Strydent. You guys have been great. Thanks for watching, as always, and I guess I will see you in the next video. I just can't stress enough how dope this figure is, so you guys really, if you like Bruce Lee and you like good figures, jump on this shit. Peace outside.